So I'm currently on the phone with Francisco. He's another musician that reached out to me about the interview series. So I'm going to go ahead and give him the chance to introduce himself.
How's it going, everyone? My name is Francisco Zamudio. Born and raised in Los Angeles. I'm a drummer here and been at it for too long. Nah, I've been at it for about 20 years. I'm 43 now and just part of the local scene here. And I'm trying to get my name out there and do what I can. How's it going today?
But it's good here. Thanks for that introduction. So since you say you've been at it for so long, let's kind of take a look at your seminal steps into music. When did
Mhm.
you first identify with music, and what about it was so important that you felt you needed to commit your life to?
Um, I like to go back to the memory of being a kid and with my mom blasting the stereo and we're Mexican American, so she was playing all the oldies from Mexico with like the female lead vocalists, the singers, like the what they the classics of the day, and she has such an amazing voice. She actually sings in the church choir, and since then, I think at that very young age is where music just kind of grabbed me because of the beauty of her voice and it just hearing that every day and it just was embedded in my head and that's I think that's where it initially started. um, Fast forward a little bit to about teenage years and my brother um, was a guitarist, but he never really had the opportunity, or he had the opportunity, he just didn't pursue it as much as he should. And so him being playing the guitar, and then we're sitting in front of the TV watching these rock videos, and I think it was like Motley Crue that came on, and I saw Tommy Lee flipping the sticks, and I was like, you know what, I want to do that. And so my brother playing the guitar, me playing the drums, it was kind of like, because he was a big Van Halen fan as well. So I figured like, okay, let's get that brother dynamic going. But unfortunately, that didn't manifest. But I stuck to playing, and it's because of family. My brother and my mother that influenced me to be a musician, and it's where I am today.
Sure. So you mentioned there that you kind of took some inspiration from some of your musician idols to reach into drums. Did you do any sort of rhythmic training, whether it be in school or out of school? Did you do it most on your personal time? How did you actually start learning the instrument once you decided that's what you wanted to do?
I'm probably of the rare breed nowadays where I was self-taught. I again, my brother, he was 10 years older than me, and he was playing all the jams, Van Halen, Iron Maiden, you name it, Led Zeppelin, and I'd see him like rocking out to this stuff, and then I'd get into it, and music videos are playing, and little did I know that I'm absorbing everything that I'm seeing, so I'm watching the
Mm-hmm.
drummers. And then as time went on, in school, I started hanging out with like all these, other rocker and metalhead types, and a lot of them were musicians. They were older than me as well. So I'd be going to these backyard gigs, and I'd be like, just fixated on the drummer and what the drummer was doing. And again, without even really like realizing it, I'm just like learning and soaking these things up, as a young teenage mind does, soak everything up. And yeah, it was just basically that, and going to concerts and
Mm-hmm.
watching drummers. And back then we didn't really, I mean, not to sound like an old man, but we didn't really have like internet or like YouTube and all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's
We just had like,
actually That's
uh,
actually exactly what I was going to ask about. Since you describe yourself as self-taught and absorbing, information and essentially mirroring what you're seeing, how prominent was the local music scene and going to bands in that development?
oh, around here, man, LA, like it was happening, man. There was always like backyard parties like every weekend, and you know, uh, big concerts. Yeah, there were some. I didn't really go to many, but at least not at that young age. But there was like backyard parties, and of course like friends, bands like from all over the area. Just you go a few blocks and you hear bands, practicing and shit like that. And my neighborhood like is kind of well, I grew up from like the hood, so like, but the only thing that really like came out of our hood is that's worth mentioning is the band Armored Saint was from my hood in El Sereno.
Mm-hmm.
And then, down the street, you had South Pasadena, and that's where Van Halen came from.
Mm-hmm.
So, and even further down the street, that's where, Metallica came from, like in the city of
Mm-hmm.
Downey or whatever. But yeah, we had like a nice little scene, in our little hood, and of course, LA being what it is, it was a nice scene, but now it's kind of, I don't know, depends on who you ask, but it's kind of flattened out a little bit because, the music's a little generic these days. So, but every
Sure.
once in a while, there's a couple of good bands that stick out.
So I actually do kind of have a question about that. Since you
Sure.
do have such experience working in the music industry or in the music scene inside of Los Angeles, um, you know there's kind of the stigma about Los Angeles that it's the music capital of America, aside from
No.
like Memphis or whatever. Um, how would you
Yeah.
say that the actual music scene in Los Angeles has evolved and changed in the time that you've been in it?
Well, I guess I'll say that let's start from current times and then I'll go in reverse. Um, uh, let's say, okay, everybody knows the Sunset Strip. Everybody wants to come and play the Sunset Strip. I get
Mm-hmm.
it, the nostalgia of the whiskey and the Viper Room and everything that comes with it, the Doors and Motley Crue, everybody played there, and I get it. I get it. And you should do it. You know, they unfortunately have this thing called pay to play, which
Mm-hmm.
I think fans should really be aware of what this is. And musicians are, but they kind of try and hide it from the fans. And me, I'm never a guy that wants to hide anything from the fans. I want fans that are
Mm-hmm.
intelligent, that know what's up with the music scene, and know how to support the bands in the real ways. And
Mm-hmm.
these pay to play gimmicks are just a way for bands to like cut corners, get in front of an audience that's not theirs because they're usually paying to get in front of a big name touring band that's coming through the city.
Mm-hmm.
So they're obligated to sell these tickets at like, $20, $30 a piece for like a grand total of like $1,000, $3,000, as a whole, and cough this money up to the whiskey or the other venues on the Sunset Strip, not getting a penny of that.
Mm-hmm.
On top of that, they get charged, I forgot how much of a percentage if they wanted to sell merch at the venue.
Oh, geez.
So yeah, exactly. So pay to play thing has kind of really affected the scene here because you have bands, especially young kids who like their parents they'll just fork out the cash here,
Mm-hmm.
fuck the ticket, whatever. I want my kid to play on the whiskey stage. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And okay, all their friends and fans come in, but nobody buys drinks.
Mm-hmm.
So or if they even show up, sometimes they don't even show up. So they're playing to like an empty room. So the bar doesn't make any money, and of
Mm-hmm.
course that makes everyone look bad.
Right,
So
right.
the whole pay to play thing is really toxic, and people should just stay away from it. There's ways around it. They want to say paying your dues, like okay, do it a couple of times and then maybe get thrown a freebie. But that's once in a great while, and you got to know how to like talk to people. You got to know who to talk to, because I did that at a very young age. I'm sorry I'm going on about this, but like
That's
one of
okay.
my first experiences, yeah. So I was in a band like out of high school,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasted about like I want to say I'll round it out to about 15 years of my life playing with these like low lives.
Mm-hmm.
I was there like every day. We were like just we'd play the same songs, we'd drink, we'd smoke weed, and it was a stupid little addiction at the time, and I wasted like a lot of my time. I finally
Mm-hmm.
wised up. I quit that band, and then a short time after, I joined another band. And in the short time after that, we ended up playing the whiskey. We did that pay to play thing, which was my first experience. But we played to a jam packed room. And for me, a kid playing at the whiskey, I'm like, oh, it goes back to that nostalgia thing that I was saying. You're like, oh my god, I'm fucking playing the whiskey, and there's fucking crowd here. Then,
Mm-hmm.
and right then and there, it just opened my eyes as to like, you know, I had to get out of my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that I had to do this, and by doing that, I met another band that didn't really amount to anything a short time after that. But I branched out and I met other people and I kept on doing it and repeat and repeat, repeat. And then that's what I do, man. I'm a bit of a individualist, for lack of a better term. Like I go out and do my own things. I mean I have some close friends,
Mm-hmm.
but I go out and do my own things, and whether I realize it or not, I'm always out constantly networking. And I always, and being in the city that we are, like I'm always running into like artists of various kind, whether it be musicians, photographers, And yeah, man, it's just so. You were asking about the scene. Sorry.
No.
Um,
That was actually the perfect segue for getting back to discussing, your musicianship and about how you started working with bands. So a follow up question to that would be, um, once you did kind of identify that you wanted to work with other bands and other musicians to create music, how did you go about the process of finding those bands and then determining the style and type of music that you wanted to make?
well, for me, it had started out with like the classic rock stuff, like Van Halen and Led Zeppelin, and with the crowd that I was hanging out with, like a lot of them were into like death metal and like thrash metal, and like and it was blowing up at the time. This was like the '90s, and the death metal just and thrash metal just like grabbed me, man. I gravitated to it so much, and bands like Sepultura, Napalm Death, Cannibal Corpse, they were like gateway drugs to me and to like the heavier stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and also like being around those bands. And I appreciated that music a lot more. It was like vulgar, like the graphics on the CDs were like obscene, and I like that. You're a kid, you have this angst, fuck society, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why I gravitated towards it. And you know, I just I would I just just threw myself into the mix of where things were happening. I would go to these gigs as gigs were happening, and aside from the backyard gigs, you had like the small clubs that were throwing gigs and a lot of death metal bands, and
Mm-hmm.
then like I was more and more anxious to check out these death metal bands, and that's how you essentially meet people, right? You go to these shows, you start talking shit, and then me being a drummer trying to get stuff, I'm like, yeah, man, that's like the first conversation piece. Like, yeah, I'm a drummer, I'm looking for a band. It's like, oh, well, really? I'm a guitar player, I'm looking for a drummer, and you just get it going, and that's how the face to face, man. I mean, we barely had Craigslist back then. I mean, again, not to age myself, but we had something called the Recycler,
Mm-hmm.
which was like a newspaper that you'd go get, at the liquor store or something.
Mm-hmm.
And there in the Recycler, there was ads for musicians seeking musicians. It's now how Craigslist is, except I don't know if how Craigslist is in your area, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a little
It's the
weird.
same.
But I'll say this: I've had a little bit of luck, and once in a while, I will have a bit of luck and get a contact through Craigslist that's worthwhile. Like I've gotten recording sessions opportunities, I've gotten fill-in opportunities
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not just like I said, I'm an individualist. I'm a session guy. I do have my regular bands that I play with,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm available for hire wherever the money's at, and as long as it's something that I can respect myself doing and like the money is good, then I'll do it. And on top of that, like part of the scene right here that's really happening a lot is the jam scene, where a night is set up once a week, or in several places actually. So any day of the week, you go to these little areas, the little dive bars where there's a jam band going on, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how you meet other musicians, man. I mean, it might not be like metal or rock and roll, but you get to see some amazing players, some people that they've never played in a band, they've never been outside the house because of the last couple years bullshit,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden they're trying to get out of their shell and they go to these jams, and you can tell, man, some people have the skill. I mean, they may just stand there, not really have much showmanship, but they have the fucking skills, and I go to these jams. A lot of my friends play these things, and I've not to toot my own horn, but I've developed a bit of a reputation as being one of the good drummers there, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how you network, man. You go to these jams and you build a circle around you of be selective, of course, but
Mm-hmm.
that's how you engage. You engage and you find it, man. If you don't engage, it's not gonna come to you.
Right, right. So you did kind of touch base on there of the next topic I want to move into, and that is, what are the projects that you're working on now? Are you focused on session work, or are you focused on getting back out there playing shows? Where are you at now?
Well, I've been fortunate to have been playing since January.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as the last 2 years were starting to line up. So I've been fortunate to be playing since January, and practically every weekend since then. The last couple of months have been slow, but I was doing like anywhere from like 1 to 3 gigs a week, sometimes four. Um, I just completed a 10-song album for this client about a month ago, and I was working on that for the last couple of months because scheduling time was difficult, and I can't really say much more of it until he announces it and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
aside from that, I also teach drums. I have a student right now, 13-year-old boy who's like just loving it. He's absorbing it. He's asking questions and he's
Hmm.
getting it, and it's such a cool experience. That's another thing too. Teach, man. But I mean, just don't teach just for the sake of teaching. Teach because you want to pass along that knowledge to, especially like young minds. You know what I mean? But be a
Hmm.
positive influence. But I'll get back to that. And aside from that, I'm in a Black Sabbath cover band, a tribute actually. It's a concept tribute, and we're called Black Sabbatha. So
Okay.
clever, right? We have a female vocalist, and the rest of us are guys. And we have this whole gimmick. She does like a crazy stage outfit changes and stuff like that. It's really pretty cool stuff. And with that same group, we double as a cover band. So we'll do like nights at various bars or parties or something like that. For a few hours.
Hmm.
Aside from that, I'm working on this kind of I would say like a heavy metal, like classic heavy metal type of style, with this bassist from a pretty well known death metal band. I can't really uh, go into much detail, and that's working out. We're working on an EP, about
Hmm.
6 or 8 songs. We're working on right now. Aside from that, I just joined a black and death metal band, a local here from the area called Consciously Dying.
Hmm.
That hasn't been announced yet because I just joined, and we're working on songs. They have already an album already in the can. They're about to be signed to a local indie label here.
Hmm.
So that's already an established band. They needed a drummer, and through friends, I got in contact with them,
Hmm.
and I'm in the mix. And so we're just working on. I'm working on tightening up the songs, and we're eventually going to do promo and announce that I joined the band. And yeah, that's about it, man. You're caught up. I mean,
Awesome.
again, I do like session work, hire work, whatever.
That it sounds like you're up to some pretty exciting stuff there.
I think so. I put a lot of effort into what I do, 100%. And
Sure, for sure.
I'm really picky. I'm here in LA, man. I'm really fucking picky with who I work with. It's been
Hmm.
a long time since I've been in a black death metal band, in a death metal band. That was one of my first bands, was being in a death metal band.
Hmm.
And it's been a long time. I've been wanting to do it again. And I was recently let go from another industrial band that I won't get into. It was total bullshit, but I'll speak about that later. But
Okay.
but yeah, man, I'm just glad to be doing music that I love doing, and I mean, I do other things besides music to make an income. But I
Hmm.
mean, it's good to be able to do it and make some money out of it.
Definitely. So, from there and everything that you're working on now, where would you like to see your career progress to in 5 or 10 years?
Well, just not too much different than what I'm doing. Just more session work, and hopefully, my name gets thrown into the face of some big name band.
Hmm.
Whether it's like a band that's been around for ages, or maybe a band that's been around for 5, 10 years that has a loyal following that tours and
Hmm.
stuff like that, or or even I'm hoping this death metal band that I joined. I hope if how they talk it up is any indication, then it seems like it was a good choice for me to join. And I hope we do something with this band, because I expect progress, not just in 5 years, but in 3 years. I
Sure.
want to see progression, and that's touring, because I definitely want to tour. I definitely want to tour overseas and shit like that. But
Hmm.
hopefully these restrictions don't restrict me so much. But I'm not gonna let that, nor have I let anything else stop me. So I'm gonna just keep going forward and doing what I do.
Absolutely. So, since you've had so much time in the music scene and for a love of music, what are some of your absolute favorite memories that really stand out to you?
Um, I'll go back to mentioning my parents, my mom. Though this whole time that I've been a musician, um, it's sad that it's taken this long. But when I was when we did a show with the Black Sabbath, we did a show out here in Montclair. which is kind of like about an hour away from where I'm at.
Hmm.
And it's a big venue, one of the bigger venues where the touring bands come through, and it's a nice venue. And so I decided to invite my folks, my parents and my sister, and they came down. They had a nice dinner and they saw the show, and they loved it. They had a nice dinner, and that for me really warmed my heart because I don't know why it took so long for for me to actually invite them to come see me,
Hmm.
and the fact that they did and had such a great time and still talk about it. Like I just, that's the greatest feeling in the world. You want to share it with your loved ones,
Hmm.
and yeah, they're those are the ones, those are the people that I really need there for me. They've supported me. They supported me when they thought this was just going to be a hobby and that I would get over it. And
Hmm.
they the hardships that I've gone through, all the heartbreak, and they're your number one supporters, man. And you gotta show them. You gotta show what you do, put the work in. Show your work to the people that you care about, and make them. Hopefully they appreciate all the effort that you're doing.
Absolutely. So, on that note, where can people check you out? What are some links to your social media where people can listen to what you're doing?
Very simple. If you go to Instagram, my tag is Metal X Candy, and in my bio you will see a link to my link tree that has everything: my Twitter, Facebook, Reverb Nation, YouTube. It has everything that I'm involved with right there. And
Excellent.
I will say this too. Me personally, I prefer Instagram. Facebook is kind of weak and lame. I don't really
Hmm.
focus too much on that. Um, but you want to have, like I said, show your work, and YouTube is one of the places I put a lot of my videos.
Hmm.
I also have a Reverb Nation where I put my work. It's kind of like my EPK, my resume.
Hmm.
Um, I wanted to mention also, I write for knec.com. KNEC used to be like a big rock and metal station out here, based out of
Hmm.
Long Beach. It got sold in the '90s, came back as a online radio. The online radio presence is no more, but there's still a website, and I'm a journalist with a great crew of people that we do reviews on new albums, concert reviews. I do a lot of artist interviews as well. Like I've been
Hmm.
doing a lot of Zoom videos, so you'll see me there. Again, just go to Instagram, Metal X Candy, and my Linktree link is right there, and you'll find everything I've done right there, man.
Excellent. So, I always like to give the person I'm interviewing the opportunity to put out their last word. So, just a message that you kind of feel resonates with you.
Well, I'll reiterate what I said. You pass on your knowledge, but you yourself have to evaluate whether the knowledge you have is worth of any value. I mean, you have people that just come fresh out of school without any experience, any live stage experience, any actual performing experience, and that's where you get your experience going to these gigs, setting up, dealing with other bands, whether they're shitheads or whether they're the nicest people, the crew, the promoter, the fans themselves. Gain that experience, soak up all that stuff. Be a sponge. Don't let people talk. Just absorb it all. As you're trying to learn everything, the ropes, and and try and pass that on to, like, the kids nowadays, man. And I can tell you about like how social media should work, but I mean everybody has their own opinions about that. But just work, man. Don't be afraid to put in the work. I mean, we're fortunate now that we have social media where we can just simply ask a question and the answer is given to us. But understand that it doesn't just work that way. You need to go and experience this stuff. I know it's hard with all the restrictions and all, and not many shows happening, but go drive an hour, go drive 2 hours to go see a show. People in Europe and Germany, I mean, these people fucking do that for like a living. They'll take a train and be gone all day to go catch a festival. We're fortunate here where we don't have to drive very far for a show. But put that effort, go meet some people, go out, get out of your comfort zone, and buy music. Don't just stream it, buy music. That's all I can tell you.